Step 3 of planning and decision making is about envisioning the audience. This step is all about perception, how you perceive your audience and how your audience perceives your message. In the later slides, we'll lay out a few demographics that the chapter states that can help you better envision your audience. If you don't take the time to understand these demographics and try and understand your audience, you may be wasting your time. They could not understand your message entirely, or even worse, they may negatively interpret your message. The first demographic is age. If you're speaking to a child or an adult or anywhere in between, you may have to tweak the terminology that you use so that they better understand you. A young child isn't going to understand all the words you could say to an adult. The second is the economic level. If you're trying to propose something that's going to increase taxes or ask for charity donations, something to that level where you're going to ask for more money from somebody who may already be struggling to pay their bills, it's going to be a tough sell. You have to understand where they're coming from and have to show them and word it in a way that they can get behind the increase in taxes or a charity donation, something to that extent. The third is the education level. Similar to the age level, depending on if you're talking to, say, a college campus or if you're talking to a group of 6th graders, you might have to tweak your terminology once again because their level of education may not allow them to comprehend some of the bigger words you might use on, say, a college campus. So, in that respect, you definitely have to take a look at who your audience is and their age group and what their education level is. The fourth one is the needs and concerns of your audience. If they're not too concerned about the fourth demographic addresses the needs and concerns of your audience. If you fail to understand these, you're not going to get your message across, especially if they can't understand why they need your particular service, product. And if you don't address the concerns, such as, is this going to put other people out of business? Is this going to put other people out of jobs? These are things you need to consider when trying to propose a new project, product, service. These are all things that people are going to want to know where your stance is. The fifth one is culture. Let's say you're hosting a public forum, if your audience is made up of predominantly Jewish and Muslim people, it may not be a good idea to have it catered by a pulled pork or a barbecue restaurant. The sixth kind of demographic is rapport. You want to consider the rapport that you have with that particular audience. Let's say you're a company who's been in business for many years now, and you have a customer or a client who has been there for quite some time, and you have a new client. Let's say the person who deals with these two particular clients has passed away. When sending out a message about the deceased to both clients, the message is going to be a little different. For the client who's been with you for quite some time, it may be appropriate to include funeral details, wake services, stuff like that. For the new client, it may create a sense of awkwardness considering they didn't have a very established relationship with the deceased. The final demographic that the chapter lays out is expectations. When you're going in to talk with people about either, let's say, public forum holding politics or trying to get somebody to invest in your company, they have a set standard of how they want you to talk. They want you to be able to speak very grammatically correct, and they have this expectation of how you're going to present your information. The chapter then goes on to explain how you can reach your audience. There are several different ways. This is just a small list of what the chapter lays out, and they all have their positives and negatives. So you have Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms. This is a great way to reach younger generations who want the information now in short blurbs and are technically savvy. On the other hand, a lot of older generations, they don't particularly like Facebook or Twitter. They have a sense of having everything in this short blurb, having everything now, tends to create a Facebook, Twitter, and these other social media platforms can create a sense of urgency and now that a lot of these older generations who are somewhat laid back and maybe retired or going into retirement stages, that they don't need everything as quickly as a lot of these platforms produce information. Town hall meetings and other public forums, these are great for engaging your audience and having them, stand up, ask questions about your services or your product, whatever you're trying to speak with them about. But this can also create a problem. Say you're hosting a town hall about politics and you invite a controversial guest, whether it be the left wing or the right wing. You can have protests staged outside that can actually shut down the town hall or the public forums. Email, it's a great way to have a record of what you're discussing, and it's a quick way, very simple, doesn't take a whole lot of time to type out an email. The only issue is it's very hard to interpret either context or emotion when reading an email. And the final thing is teleconferencing or video conferencing. These are great ways to set up and speak with everybody, have people engage. The only issue is trying to get everybody on the same page at the same time, whether all their technology meets the requirements to actually link into the teleconference or the video conference. So you have to when you take into consideration, if you're going to use these two mediums, you definitely have to consider everybody's technological limits and what you can and can't